So this is the iPhone XR, the best-selling smartphone in 2019, and this is the iPhone XS, the big brother of iPhone X and iPhone XR. Now, in 2026, both iPhone XR and iPhone XS are 10 years old and cost almost the same. But of course, one is always the best buy. And after testing out both iPhones, I honestly think most people should pick the iPhone XS, but the iPhone XR still wins in a few important areas. So here's a quick comparison of both iPhones, starting with their battery. Surprisingly, the iPhone XR has physically larger battery than the iPhone XS. On paper, the iPhone XS has 2,658 mAh battery, and the iPhone XR has 2,942 mAh battery. But this difference doesn't only exist on paper. You get to notice it when you actually use both iPhones in real world. So my iPhone XS usually gets me around 4 to 5 hours of screen on time with 82% of battery health. But the iPhone XR with 72% of battery health, I roughly get around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time. I also noticed on the days I forgot to charge them, the iPhone XR could still give me around 3 hours of screen on time at 45% of battery, which is amazing for a 10 years iPhone. But here's something you should consider. Because the battery health on both iPhones are different, these numbers may vary depending on your usage and the battery health of your iPhone XR or the XS. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that if both of these iPhones should have gotten the same battery health, the iPhone XR will still last longer than the iPhone XS. And that's because, well, first of all, you'll be right if you justify it that the iPhone XR has a larger battery, but also the iPhone XR has a lower screen resolution compared to the iPhone XS. So because the amount of battery the processor is using to process the fewer pixels are lower, it kind of gives the upper hand for the iPhone XR to win in this category. So if I'm giving the iPhone XR 8 out of 10 for battery life, I will give the iPhone XS 6.8 out of 10. Now, speaking of the displays, this is where things stand out in favor of the iPhone XS and arguably one of the biggest difference between both iPhones. But I will get into that in a second. However, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. I make videos on whether other Macs or iPhones still make sense today, and there's a lot more coming. Alright, now back to comparing the screens of the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS. So with the iPhone XR, you are getting a 6.1-inch liquid retina display, which is a fancy way of Apple saying it's an LCD screen with a resolution of 828p, which is lower than 1080p. But on the other hand, the iPhone XS features a little bit smaller but much more better 5.8-inch OLED screen with a resolution that's close to 1440p and supports HDR content. And even though on paper both displays are different, they all still offers Apple's True Tone technology. But as you can see from this video, the difference between the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS screen are very noticeable. Colors are more punchier and well calibrated on the iPhone XS than the iPhone XR screen. And not only that, but the overall display is also much more clearer, sharper, and they tend to have more contrast and deep blacks, which makes them look better. However, that's not to say the iPhone XR screen is looking bad at all. It's still a very good screen by itself that offers a very great viewing angles, and I can promise you that most people wouldn't notice it's an LCD screen if it is not being placed side by side with the iPhone XS OLED screen. And after all, many of you who will still like to choose the iPhone XR after watching this video are probably coming from smartphones that don't even have OLED displays. So I don't think the screen is a big of a deal for most people. And overall, I think the most only difference a lot of you will notice with the displays is when you are reading. With the iPhone XR, you are going to see some pixelations if you really look close enough. But with the iPhone XS, everything is crispy and smooth. Now, the slightly thicker bezels around the screen are also something you will certainly notice on the iPhone XR, which end up making the iPhone XS looking more premium because it has the smallest bezels. But even though the screens are the huge difference between the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS, at least in my opinion, I don't think you should be much concerned of them compared to the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS performance. So if I'm giving 7 out of 10 to the iPhone XR for the displays, I will give the iPhone XS 9 out of 10. Now, when we start looking at the internal specs of the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS, we'll start seeing how similar they are. Both iPhones has the same A12 Bionic chip. The only difference here is that the iPhone XR has 3 gigs of RAM, whilst the iPhone XS has 4. But even with that, there's not much of a difference when using them in real world. In theory, the iPhone XR should have struggled in keeping multiple apps open in the background compared to the iPhone XS. But I doubt you will even notice any difference. Both iPhones are still fast and very much responsive with iOS 18 experience. All apps launch similar, and I even played graphical intensive game like Call of Duty on both iPhones, and I did not notice any lack of frame drops, but the board tends to heat up a lot at the back when using for a long time. Other than that, performance seems okay, and it will be okay for score same performance to be the same 8 out of 10. Now, when it comes to the cameras, the iPhone XR and iPhone XS have similar cameras, but the iPhone XS wins in this area, and here's why. So with the iPhone XS, you are getting 3 cameras, a 12 megapixels wide-angle camera and a 12 megapixels 2x telephoto, and at the front, there is a 7 megapixel selfie camera. But with the iPhone XR, you are getting only 2 cameras. It has the same primary and selfie camera just like the iPhone XS. However, even though the cameras are the same, both iPhones view the same photos differently, and that's because of the differences in the screen, but the image files looks the same. The telephoto lens may be the main difference between these iPhone cameras, but in my opinion, I don't see it to be a deal breaker if the iPhone XR does not have it, and that's because you can still take photos with 2x zoom, just that the zoom will be digital instead of non-optical, meaning your photos might just not be as detailed as if they were taken with the iPhone XS, but not in a state where you wouldn't like them. Portrait mode is also available on both iPhones, but just that the iPhone XS utilizes its hardware of both lenses, so it most of the time tends to take best portrait photos, whilst the iPhone XR also uses one lens and software to get the job done. There's also 2 less portrait options on the iPhone XR than the iPhone XS, and that's mainly because iPhone XR was launched as a budget iPhone, so Apple has to cut corners to make it cheaper. However, another portrait feature you wouldn't get on the iPhone XR is it only works on human faces, but with the iPhone XS, you can use it on anything. But that's not to say the iPhone XR does not have some advantages in portrait mode over the iPhone XS. In some cases, portrait from the iPhone XR has more details because it's always using the main camera, which is way better than the telephoto camera on the iPhone XS. And you can clearly see that in these photos. But in terms of separating the subject from the background, the iPhone XS does its best. But unfortunately, there's one more thing both iPhones lack, which is they are not good in taking photos in low light, and that's because they don't have night mode, which I believe it's one of the biggest drawbacks of these iPhones in 2026. Now, there's a solution to it, which is by using a third-party app, but not that you will have to pay, which I'm not sure is the right thing to do given the age of these iPhones. But all in all, if you're coming from any of the older iPhones and you truly like the way pictures look on them, you will have no problem at the photos these cameras take. And when it comes to the selfie cameras, clearly they are not the greatest anymore, but they always get the job done. Now, when it comes to my rating for the cameras on these devices, I honestly want to give both iPhones the same 8 out of 10. But let's be real, the telephoto lens on the iPhone XS makes some little difference. So because of the extra options you get when using the 2x telephoto, I will give the iPhone XS 8.5 out of 10 and the iPhone XR 8 out of 10. Now, you might notice I haven't said anything about their design yet, and that's because I think in 2026 you shouldn't be much concerned about it, but in case you do, all you really need to know is that both the iPhone XR and the XS has a really nice and simple design with a Gorilla Glass at the front and back of them, and all have a glossy finish. It's just nothing fancy like a ceramic shield, and it's okay because it still makes the iPhones look premium, but in terms of durability, that's where you get to see the differences in the design. The iPhone XR has an aluminum frame with a matte surface, whilst the iPhone XS has a stainless steel frame, which obviously is more durable than aluminum. But other than that, the iPhone XS easily picks up fingerprints and also tends to scratch a lot. And because the XR aluminum frame is easily to color match to the back of the iPhone, you get a variety of colors to choose from. But in my opinion, the white one is the best color to choose if you don't want to deal with any fingerprints. Now, both iPhones are water and dust resistant, but the difference over here is the iPhone XR is IP67 water resistant, whilst the iPhone XS is IP68 water resistant. So if I'm giving the iPhone XR 7.5 out of 10, I will give the iPhone XS 8 out of 10 for design and build quality. Now, even though the iPhone XS feels a little bit more premium and more durable than the iPhone XR, I still don't think that should be your ultimate reason why you should choose one over the other. If you will end up putting a case on them, which I will suggest you do, and I will leave a link link to a good case in the description below. So in conclusion, I think the iPhone XR and iPhone XS are similar iPhones, just that the iPhone XS is a little bit more better at doing what the iPhone XR does, except for the battery life, which I think it's one of the important factors you have to check when buying any used iPhone in 2026. So I will say you should buy the iPhone XR if battery is much of your concern. But other than that, the iPhone XS will be what I will personally choose, just for the extra camera, better screen, plus the additional 1 gig of RAM. So there you have it. But if you want an iPhone that costs less but still offers iOS 26 experience, I will suggest you check out the iPhone 11 video on that soon. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when that video drops. Peace out.